and welcome to the Open Mind Podcast. I am your host, Louise McCarthy. So, like any podcast, I think it's important to go back to the start. What do I mean by that? The start of my little life and where I come from. I wanted to kind of give the people that don't know me a little bit of a background check, I suppose. So, I am 31 years of age, a mother of two little boys. I come from Dublin 22. I'm the baby of six siblings. My home growing up was chaoticness. And I suppose what really led me into, a journey from trauma to recovery started in 2008 when my sister took her own life. Before she done that, I was a little wild child. I was smoking weed from the age of 11. I took my first party drug, I think at the age of about 13. I was drinking alcohol. I was hanging around with the older group of girls. I didn't care for school. I was in scraps, like boxing matches, nearly every week. My life was just big ball of shit, basically. And the two main emotions that I carried with me throughout my life were fear and anxiety. They were so bad and heightened that when I was little and I was in third class, I had to be taken out of school for 6 months. And the reason why that is because it looked like I was carrying a baby. It looked like I had a little bump, but it was really a belly full of poo that I couldn't let go of. So my fear ended up resulting in me having physical problems wrong with me. So bowel problems. And then a few years later, I ended up having to get my appendix taken out as well. So like the fear and anxiety was horrible for me to live with. Absolutely horrible. When my sister died, the anxiety got that bad that I started having panic attacks. And in them panic attacks, I thought I was going to actually die. So in the summer of 2008, I went back to school at the end of August. And when I went back to school, the school seen that I was struggling and they offered me free psychotherapy, and I took that, and I did that for the last 2 years that I was in school. So that was the major starting point in my life of change happening, for understanding and love to come in on a level that I never had ever felt it before. So, my life before 2008, say from the age of about 6 up until 2008, was dark. There's a lot of trauma, there's a lot of addictions, there's a lot of abuse, there's a lot of neglect. But I don't want to talk about that too much, if I'm being really honest. I do, but not all in one go. So how I will bring you on a journey back to that time in my life is through different references. So the sequence of this podcast is like a storybook. So there's going to be different chapters and different subjects. And each time we dive into a chapter or a subject, I will always be referencing something back to that time in my life. So that's the way I'm going to share my story, because there's just too much to put into one episode. And I don't live, I suppose, in victimhood energy anymore, and I don't associate with my trauma anymore. So every time I'm sharing a story, it's going to be about trauma to recovery, because that's how my life has went since I started with that psychotherapist at the age of 15. So one of the main reasons why I decided to set up this podcast was to share my mother's story. My mother was one of the most strongest, bravest women women I know. I am honoured to be her daughter and to have learned so much from her. She always said that the atom ball was so small, but it had the power to blow up the world. And I believe that my podcast is going to blow up the world in a good way. And I believe that my little fireball of a mother is up in heaven supporting this mission and supporting me. So there is a lot for me to share with you all. And I'm going to have to break it all down bit by bit. So the subjects, I suppose, that I will be touching base with is all about the relationships in general, okay? Relationships with our parents, relationships with, I suppose, romantic partners, relationships with friends, just relationships. So I will be doing a whole episode on that. We will be doing an episode on addiction, ego, nursing homes, hospitals, titles, medication, diagnosis, sickness, suicide. So much. So much. Crime, prison, sexual abuse, neglect. We are going to cover it all, step by step, week by week. When I share my mother's story, my father will be then on to share his story with his family being failed by the HSE. Him personally being failed by the HSE, nearly dying a few years ago because of a doctor. My dad always said, doctors differ and patients die. This is a fact. And we will spend a little bit of time on this podcast highlighting how much of a fact that actually is. We will be highlighting how corrupt the HSE is, how corrupt the nursing homes are, and the system in general. I am a nervous system regulation therapist. I specialise in trauma recovery using different therapy modalities in my own method of practice. The modalities I use are fascia releasing. What is fascia? Fascia is the connective tissue in our bodies. I use polyvagal toning. What is that? It's exercises designed to connect with your vagus nerve in your body. The vagus nerve is the biggest nerve in our whole body, and it connects with our fascia and connects everything else together. Somatics. What is somatics? Somatics is a therapy designed to help you get in touch with your sensations in your body. So I start off every therapy session with a little bit of EFT tapping, and that is basically a modality called emotional freedom technique, and I use it as an activation technique to let the body know that we are going in to do a little bit of healing. So I will spend a little bit of time highlighting how important self-healing is. I will be highlighting how outstandingly effective these modalities are. And I will be bringing on clients that work with me to share their stories as well. So, for the first while of the podcast, we will be sharing tears and probably heightened emotions of unforgiveness and corruption, anger, hate, all these other things, okay? But we will then flip the switch and talk about the power in self-healing. Then my mission, my big mission for the people of Ireland will be shared. That mission is going to be amazing, honestly. And I am going to need the help of a lot of people to make it the beautiful reality that I know it's going to be. I will be calling out a lot of you lads, so be ready for that day. No, that I'm not doing it in a mean way. I'm doing it in a collective way. I know where the money's at, and everybody's going to be emptying their pockets. Put it that way. Because we can't sit back any longer as a country and pass the blame to the government and everybody else. No, we have to stand up and take accountability together, create and change, and a system that actually fucking works for us, not against us, for us. So if you are someone sitting at home and you're intrigued by what I'm talking about here today, and you want a bit of that change, you want to be part of that, reach out. Follow my Instagram. My therapy page is called Energy Release Therapy. And you will find my podcast page on there too. The Open Mind Podcast. Reach out on either one. Let me know how you would like to be involved. And let's work together to make a massive change. So, I'm going to kind of leave on this little note. Because, as I said, the sequence of the podcast is like a storybook. It's going to be done chapter by chapter, subject by subject. And today was basically me extending my little intro and giving you a little bit more. I'm a natural taste, so it's not all going to come together. And for the people that have been following me on Instagram and have been listening to me talk about all this for the last few months, thank you from the bottom of my heart for all of your patience. When I say I'm a natural taste, you get it. You know what I mean, because you have been following me for a while now. So thanks for the patience. I hope you all get a little something from this today, and to let you know that I am full of excitement and full of nerves right now. I might come across like cool as a cucumber, but I'm not. I still do feel them little bits of stress. And I was very, very, I suppose, skeptical about putting this video out there and getting the first episode done. The first one is always the hardest one, and I know that I'm not in full flow that I normally like to be in, but I do believe that that's going to grow as I get more used to being in this space doing this. So I am excited for you to see the progress in me on this journey with the podcasting. And I just want to end by saying a massive thank you to everybody that has subscribed so far and that has been following my journey for the last year. Thank you is all. I really appreciate it. And I will be on next week, and the subject that we will be talking about, I will drop before the weekend. So you all know what's coming. Have a beautiful day. Goodbye.